Good morning, friends. Thank you for joining me here this Thursday morning as we talk about another woman from the Old Testament. Today, I feel like I need to make a disclaimer. The opinions expressed today are my own only. I haven't run this by anybody else. I haven't found this anywhere. This is just me because I'm probably going to make some of you angry. Today, the woman that I'd like to talk about is Potiphar's wife. Now, Potiphar's wife, as you know, was an Egyptian woman, and she was the head of the household, the head lady in the household of Potiphar, who was a high muckety-muck in Pharaoh's government. Potiphar had bought Joseph from a clan of Ishmaelites. So let's go back and let's talk about how that happened, that Joseph was sold into slavery. Now, Joseph is the son of Jacob, the son of his old age, and Joseph is also the son of Rachel. Now, if you go back and you read about Rachel in Genesis, you'll find out that Jacob loved Rachel, and he worked a very, very long time to pay the bride price for her. Leah was not any place in that thought. Jacob worked for Rachel, and he loved her very much. So Joseph was his favorite son, his favorite out of, at that time, 11. Well, everybody knew that. You know, when you grow up in a big family, you know who's daddy's favorite and who's mama's favorite, so everybody knew it. And then Jacob had the audacity to go and give Joseph this expensive coat. And Joseph was young and immature, and frankly, he was a jerk. He didn't let anybody forget that he was daddy's favorite. He didn't want anybody to forget anything about it. He was constantly in his brothers' faces about what a wonderful person he was. He just didn't think there was anything about him that people didn't love. He even told his brothers about these dreams that he had. Well, it seems that those dreams of his brothers bowing down to him, that was the last straw. And they had it with their snotty-nosed little brother. And they sold him. They sold him to an Ishmaelite caravan that was going to Egypt. Folks, that's a whole lot of hate to sell your little brother. I mean, we may joke about it, but to really do it. Fast forward, Joseph is purchased by Potiphar. He is Potiphar's slave. Don't ever forget that. But Potiphar brought him into his household, and apparently Joseph worked very hard, and we're clear from what is said in Genesis that God was with Joseph. And he became Potiphar's chamberlain, Potiphar's steward. That's a position that we don't really understand in today's society, so let me give you a picture of what that looks like. You've watched Downton Abbey. Mr. Carson is not just the head butler, he is the chamberlain of Lord Grantham's household. Carson has the last word. He has the keys to everything, even the booze. And Carson is the one who has the authority. The only person who has more authority than Carson is Lord Grantham. That's Joseph's position. That's where he was. Now, this is where you might disagree with me. I think that Joseph had a character flaw in that he wanted to tell everybody how good he was. He did that with his brothers. I wonder if maybe he wasn't the same kind of little jerk to the people that were downstairs in Potiphar's household as he was with his brothers. Look at me. Potiphar trusts me. I'm the one that has the keys, and you have to ask me before you go to the bathroom. Maybe. Okay, so maybe Mrs. Potiphar has a maid like Anna is with Mary. And Mrs. Potiphar's maid talks to her about what a jerk Joseph is being downstairs. And then Mrs. Potiphar says, well, let's take that little jerk down a notch. Perhaps two. This happens in marriages. Perhaps Mrs. Potiphar felt like she wasn't getting enough attention from Mr. Potiphar. He was so busy with work that he didn't pay any attention to her. So she might have had another reason for getting at him. Maybe she thought, this is the way that I can get some attention. I can get Potiphar's goat. I'll sleep with this so-and-so Hebrew slave, and then I'll get some attention. Maybe. So she begins this campaign of trying to get him in the bed with her. She didn't count on him having some integrity of his own, because he certainly was loyal to Potiphar, and he refused to sleep with her. Well, I can also tell you that I understand how handsome young men can be. And the Bible is clear that Joseph was handsome. Now, although I know how handsome these young men are, it does not make me want to sleep with them. Apparently it did her. So maybe she wanted to sleep with him because he was pretty. Maybe because she wanted some attention and her husband wasn't giving it. Maybe she just wanted to get back at the little snot because he was such a jerk. For whatever reason, when he left her that day, he was in the house alone with her that day, which was a bad thing. And Joseph had avoided that. He did all of the right things in avoiding her and in trying to stay away from her. So she grabbed his clothes, and it might have, somebody even said it was his loincloth that she grabbed, and he left it with her, and he just ran away naked. Well, whether he was naked or not is immaterial. But the thing is, there was nobody around who could support his side of the story, and all that it was her side of the story. And so Joseph was sent to prison, not of his own doing, but because someone else took advantage of him. I think we can learn a few things from the story of Joseph in this place. The first one is, don't be a jerk. Don't try to make yourself sound better than everybody else. And realize that sometimes things happen to you that are very, very bad. And they're not about you. It's not because you did anything. You're paying the price for what someone else has decided to do. Go back and look at Genesis, starting about chapter 30, I think, and read about Joseph and read about Potiphar's wife and see what you think about Joseph and see what you think about this story, because it's not what I think. It's what you think and what God says to you as you read these stories. I hope you've enjoyed this one today. It's been a little bit of a stretch, and I tell you, I have struggled with it this week because I've planned it. I hope that you have a great Thursday afternoon and a great weekend. Stay cool out there, folks. And I'll talk with you next week on Thursday when we have a story of another woman from the Old Testament. Thank you. Bye-bye.